Hi y'all, welcome back to the Truth Talk Podcast, episode 2. I love saying that. And this is so much easier because I don't even have to edit it. All right, let's jump right in. Today's topic is getting/staying saved in this day and age, specifically in college, because that's where I am. The first question I have for myself, for y'all, is what do you struggle with and what is hard about it? So I struggle, I think the most thing is with okay, I'll start up here. Up here, number one is doubt. Knowing that I heard God's voice and then moving and operating based off of what He's told me. If what I'm doing or the situation that I'm in doesn't look like He said it was gonna look like, I have a tendency to be like, all right, let me take this into my own hands because you're not doing it right. And when it's God, that's never gonna work out. So that's the first one, is being able to trust Him when I can't see what He is saying physically in my life. Specifically, I will say in a college environment, there's a lot of people around you that are doing not the right thing, that are doing the complete opposite of what you want to go towards or what I want to go towards. And it is hard to stay on track and to just hear His voice and let it just be a two-way um, phone call, if you want to call it that, a two-way phone call when there's all these other voices around. I would say that's the hardest one. The second one is lust. I feel like it's very common. I don't know, I'm not gonna say I feel like, I know that it is very common as a college student to struggle with lust. Specifically in an environment where it's encouraged. That's not even just a college student thing. That is a day and age thing where everybody tells you that it is okay to just sleep around or not wait till marriage and to be with this person and then be with that person. We live in hookup culture, y'all. That's the biggest problem. I will say the biggest problem of our generation, but that's one of the biggest problems in our generation. That's why we don't know what real love is. That's why many of us don't know who we are, because we find ourselves in relationships with deeper connections than we're supposed to have, because we're doing things that we're not supposed to do until we get married. And then it's like, well, I don't know who I am. But that's because you're trying to find who you are in this man, and this man is not, or this woman is not right. Okay, so kind of just lust in general, but not even just sexual lust. Lust after things that you just know are not right, or things that you may be putting above, that I may be putting above God. That could be anything. That could be drugs, that could be alcohol, that could be the parties, the people, whatever it may be. Any type of thing or person that is taking your desires and magnifying that desire above your desire for God and the things of God is lust. Even if you have never in your life wanted to do anything with any man or woman, but you chase that money like it's nobody's business, and you won't let anybody in your life, you won't let anybody step in the way of the money, including God, that is lust. And any type of lust is it's not okay, but I'll say it's really a struggle in this day and age, because lust is encouraged. Like I said, sexual lust, but money. Chase that bag. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's put everything else aside, put everybody else aside, chase that bag, and that is still lust. The perfect job, the perfect career. That's not how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to let God lead the way, let God order your steps. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, right? So why are you doing any and everything in your power including stepping on other people's toes to go get money when God provides. So lust. I'll say those are the top two. Um, I don't specifically struggle with the desire to, do drugs and all of that, but every temptation is the same. It comes from the same source, and it's sin. So, no, I personally don't struggle with that, but I feel like it's all one and the same. Um, yeah, I said those are my two biggest temptations. Um, and then the biggest part actually of this is how do I overcome them? So I want to go to let me go to James 4:7, right? Resist the devil and he will flee. That word resist is an active word. And it's an active word because resisting requires that you are doing something to stop something else. So it's not just that, you're sitting there and you're just like, I don't want this to happen, so I'm going to sit here in bed and hope it doesn't. That temptation is going to overtake you every single time, like 100% every single time. You need to replace it the same way that waiting is an active word. It's not sitting there doing nothing, but it's doing something in the meantime while you're waiting for something else. Resisting is it's an active, it's an action word, okay? While you are sitting there and that urge or that temptation to drink, party, sleep around, whatever it is calling your name, you need to replace it with something holy. He said, all things work together, right? So he is not trying to set you up for failure. He is there, he being God, obviously, is there for your success. So if you are going through a temptation and you are facing a temptation, he has also placed around you the necessary tools that you need to overcome that temptation. He's not going to allow something to come and to tug on you and pull on you without you having an escape strategy. Now, is that escape strategy always obvious? No, it's not always obvious. Sometimes you have to look for it, right? He said, seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall be open. Sometimes, most of the time, it takes an action. You need to knock, you need to seek. When you're laying there in bed and you want to call that person, who can you call instead? Who can you hang out with instead? What can you pick up? Even if it's going to watch a movie, go eat some food. Like, ain't no sin in eating food and watching a movie. Like, it's genuinely, what can I do to resist this thing? And eventually, I speak from experience, it gets to a point where it's going to tug and it's hard for a while. I'm not going to give you no time frame, but it's hard for a while. It depends on how long you've been struggling with whatever you're struggling with, but it gets to a point where it's not a struggle anymore. Those first couple of days, weeks, months, whatever it is, you do have to actively resist. You do have to have a preordained plan in place of even writing it down. When I get this temptation, what am I going to do instead? Or who am I going to call? What are my safeties? But when you stick by that and you become, my light just turned out, ignore that. And you become stronger, like, it gets easier. That's how muscles work. You go to the gym and you lift the same weight for weeks on end. Eventually, that weight not gonna hurt no more, and you have to go up, right? It's the same thing with temptations. You get to the point where you have built up a tolerance. I'm not going to say it's not tugging on you anymore, but now you have not only built up a tolerance, but you've proved to yourself that, hey, I've overcome this so many times. Why would I give in now? I think that's the biggest thing really to this whole video, is How am I resisting the things that I don't want in my life? What actions, again, because resisting is an action word, what actions am I taking in order to not do this? Now, a lot of you might believe that you have the willpower to not do. You don't. I'm sorry. You don't. Because if you did, you wouldn't need God, but you don't. Go ask a drug addict if when they try to get off and they just tell themselves they're not going to do it anymore, if that works. It's the same thing. You might not be on fentanyl, but temptation is the same thing. When you get stuck on something, you're stuck on something. Your human will and emotion is not enough. And the reason why I say you need to have a preordained plan before that temptation even comes is because in that moment, your emotion is the strongest thing. What you are feeling is what is going to be pulling you the most. So you need to make that plan outside of when you're feeling that emotion, so that when you get in that emotion, all you have to do is look at a paper. All you have to do is follow your step by step, and it's like you are operating a train. You do not have to go and try to memorize every single step. I need to pull this button and I need to push this lever and turn this. But if you have protocol already set up, it doesn't matter, right? What's the word? What conductor comes in? There's a protocol already there, and that train is going to run every single time the exact same way because that protocol was set in place. It doesn't matter what that conductor is feeling that day. They're going to follow the protocol, and the train is going to be run the same way, and that's how it works. You need to go into your life with a plan. What do you say? Habakkuk 2:2, write a vision and make it plain. Write it down. Okay. I'm trying to tell you, write it down. Put it in your phone notes, on a piece of paper, somewhere easily accessible, so that when that temptation hits you like that, and you lay in there, hit you like that, you pull it up quick. You go through okay, I knew this was going to happen. Who am I going to call? Who am I talking to? What restaurant? What movie am I putting on? All those things are necessary, because when you go into the gym without a workout plan, you are almost definitely not going to do everything that you want to do. You are not going to hit every muscle you meant to hit. You're not going to get to every machine. Even if you plan to, you're going to forget. It's the same thing. You write down your workout and you make sure, okay, I want to hit abs and arms, upper body today, right? I'm going to write down every workout. I'm going to write down the reps and the sets, so that when I get in there, I'm prepared and I don't have to think on the spot. It's the same thing. If you wouldn't go into the gym without a plan because you know that you're not going to be able to even stay focused while you're in there, things may happen. You may get into a conversation and you forget things. It's the same thing. Do not rely on your human will and intelligence. Overestimating yourself is a thing. It is a thing, and it's dangerous when you're talking about spiritual things, because that can lead to sin. You overestimate yourself thinking that you are stronger than you actually are, and and now you fell. Why did I fall? Well, what did you do to not fall? Nothing. That's why it's active. And God is around. Like, he is here to help us. So why you would even try to go into it without a plan, I don't know. Because that's what he's there for. And speaking of protocol, he did leave us an entire manual on like how to deal with stuff, right? It's called the Bible. Read the versions that you best understand. I'm not gonna say you have to read KJV, but whatever it works for you and is still correct. But he left us an entire manual, protocol, guidebook, whatever you want to call it. He left us that so that we would know how to deal with the temptations that we were going to deal with. Right? There's no temptation that you are facing that another person has not faced at some point in time. And there's no temptation that you are facing that God did not know you were going to face. Nothing that you are going through, nothing that you have done is new. I know the devil might be trying to tell you, oh, you're such a horrible person. Why would you do that? This person is perfect. You're supposed to be in the church or blah, 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 blah. Guarantee you, every single person on this earth has gone through something that every single other person on this earth may have also gone through too. There's nothing that you have done that has not been experienced before. Include not just by people outside the church, but by people in the church, by people who are saved, by Christians. You are not on your own because you made a mistake. That's another thing. That is another thing that is huge and has been very detrimental to me in college, is trying to be perfect, trying to be an example. You can be an example without being perfect. You can follow God and still make mistakes. I understand that you are a Christian, and I understand that you want people to see God's love and God's light. They will. Trust that they will, and trust that God is big enough to still shine his light through you despite your mistakes. He knew your mistakes before you made them, and he also knew that he wanted to use you, and he knew that he wanted to shine his light through you before you did it. You don't need to be perfect to follow God. That is one of the biggest things that gets me, is I'll mess up and I will make a mistake and I will be down for I don't know how long, but it's absolutely absurd. It's embarrassed to talk about sometimes, because I'm like, you're over here beating yourself up because you want people to see you as perfect. When, if you think about it, if you're trying to be an example and people view you as perfect, they're not going to ever think that they could be a Christian because they see their mistakes. And they're like, well, if she's perfect, how the heck am I supposed to? Right. So it's not to say go make mistakes so that people will see, that you can make mistakes and be perfect. But the point is that you can make mistakes and you come back from them. That is what measures your success, is how many times have you come back? How many times have you gotten back up again? You can only measure success and failure at the end. So you're in the middle or the beginning of your life, even if you're like in your 20s, whatever, you're still at the beginning of your life and you are saying, oh, I failed. If you are still living, you can't say you failed. Literally, get up and try again. Like, what do you mean you failed? Your life is not over. Unless you are dead, like, you have not failed. You always have another chance as long as you still have breath. So that's another big one I will say, is remembering to get up. And for the newly saved, and even actually no, because I've been in the church for 19 years and I'm still trying to tell myself that it is okay to make mistakes. So the newly saved and the saved forever, whatever, it is okay to mess up. It is okay to fall. And it is a bigger witness when you have that testimony of, I did the exact same thing that you were doing, but look what God did for me. Instead of, oh, I've never been through that in my life. No, actually, I'm always perfect. I've been perfect, but here's what God has helped me with. And it's like, well, you don't understand me, but you do. You do understand them because you've been through it. Your testimony is huge. The blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, your testimony is powerful. Yeah, your testimony is powerful. And I think that's it for now. But just remember that those 3 points. That's weird. But those 3 points, it is okay to make mistakes. Actively resist. Actively resist. And and making sure that communication between you and the Father stays direct, and that the other voices around you cannot intercept that. That's the biggest thing. Yeah. Peace and love, y'all. Peace and love.